There it is, folks. Welcome to the podcast. We have Tony Demil on.
And we're actively not cursing for the first minute of the podcast.
That's right. But we're listening to Jacob Collier, and we're watching him as he conducts an audience of humans. Gosh, he's so good. All right, that's enough of that. Yeah, he's pretty good. Jacob Collier can get it artistically.
He's a genius. And if I can just comment, I think it's like in any field, we'll be like, oh, well, Sigmund Freud or I don't know any like, what I'm saying, like more therapists or like we have great thinkers from like the 1500s. And I think it's, imagine being a therapist and people were like, oh, wow, how about Sigmund Freud? You're like, what about me?
Oh.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, does no actor ever get to be as good as Buster Keaton? Because I think Jim Carrey is a total genius. I think part of Jim Carrey's problems come from the fact that like they don't give an Oscar for comedy, but they literally, whatever the triple Oscar is, the dude should get it. There's no one like him. Alan Cummings is one of my favorite actors. He's a genius. He stole the show in Vanilla Sky. He was in it for 1 minute and you're like, that's the best actor in the movie. Do you know what I'm saying? And I saw him do Mask 2, and it was back when we had VHS and DVD. He was really good. He's no Jim Carrey. He'll never touch Jim Carrey. Granted, Jim Carrey's, but do you see what I'm trying to say? Mm-hmm. The dude is a super genius. I don't think like Buster Keaton, and he's on that level. What more genius do you get? People think like, oh, Liar, Liar was really funny. You're like, no, Liar, Liar is a work of art. And that stuff that he does, it's not on the script. It's not like you pick up the script and you're like, oh, you pick up the script and it's just like, oh, he kind of goes off on, that's all him.
Yeah.
He's a genius,
He's
dude.
an outlier is what he is.
Yeah, he's a genius and he works hard and he practices and he's next level. And then to me, there's people like him who are like, and then there's like people who are like, what kind of weather was on May 24th, 1916?
Alan Turing.
Well, that's like next. And those people are just gifted in a way that we can't really understand.
Do you think is that something? It makes me wonder, and this is going to sound a little ridiculous, but I don't think it is, where it's like at the second he flew out of the womb, was he just exposed to like music and classical and art and just did everything just from that point on, he was already tapped in. The circuit board was already set to go.
I think that the tapestry of humanity is made of little puzzle pieces and we all fit into it. And some people are brought here to be actors and some people are made to be doctors. I was just talking to Faye about it today from Class Act. Like, I would never, ever want to be a doctor. There's nothing in me. I mean, I've thought about playing a doctor. You know what I'm saying? When I was younger, I was like, oh, it'd be cool to be a doctor. Now I'm like, oh, yeah, because I'm an actor. I love mechanics. I'll probably never be a mechanic. We need people to be mechanics. So we need people to come here and want to be mechanics and be naturally mechanically inclined. Yeah. I don't know where exactly it comes from, but I might know my neighbor who's 17, who one of my other neighbors was like, oh, yeah, he's kind of slow. He'll come over to my motorcycle that I've been working on for 20 minutes. And he's like, oh, I think it's like this. And you're like, oh, you're like a genius.
There it is.
We all have these different gifts, and these different gifts, we all fit together to make the world go round.
How many people do you think are out there that like they have that gift naturally and they don't know it and they're in the wrong thing?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know.
What is that like? I'm not sure. I mean,
I think a lot of people are stifled from becoming who they're supposed to be. I think it's changing a lot, and I'm not a parent, so no disrespect to parents, but like our parents and their parents before them, especially like if they've never thought about it, you know what I'm saying? Like people in the 20s, granddads in the 20s probably weren't reading like what color is your parachute and stuff like that. Do you know what I'm saying, dude? They're like, get a job and make money. And so 100%. Immigrants come here. I don't like to use the word immigrant as people from other countries move here. And all they know is like, I need to make money to support my wife and my child.
Yeah.
And then they look in their child and they're just like, you should do the thing that makes the most money because that's my entire existence is what can I do to make more money, right? Mm-hmm. But their children are afforded the luxury of being able to choose. So it's just like, and then their kids are going to be taught, no, you should do whatever you want because I tried to do this other thing and it didn't fit. And I was like a square peg in a round hole. And so as the generations go on and on and on, and wealth is the luxury of being bored, and you have the luxury of like choosing, it's a gift to like be like, I got to be an actor.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? My dad's parents weren't like, oh yeah, you should totally go be an opera singer because that's what you want to do. They were like, you should work at the garage.
100%.
You know what I'm saying, dude?
Yeah, I was a product of immigrants, Italian and Brazilian. And
is your dad from Brazil? Mom's from?
My dad is an Italian New Yorker from straight out of Sicily. Yeah.
What part of New York?
Bronx.
Yeah,
there
baby.
It is.
That's
there
where my dad's from.
Bringing only Italians on this thing, bro.
Well, in the 50s and 60s, right? 70s,
100%.
right?
Like, most of the Bronx
now it's Dominican.
Yes, it's changed. Very much changed.
Yeah.
But no, that was the thing where when I was playing with becoming an actor, but my mom was so set on me getting a business degree, a marketing degree. Like, do not leave your 20s without getting a college degree. And in something that actually is applicable to society. They were so stern on it. They're like, I don't care what you do afterwards, but you need it, which was tough in the beginning, but
it's not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea, but I'm thankful for it. I'm so thankful for it. But they had this mentality where my dad wanted to be an actor so bad growing up in New York City. He tried to study at the actor studio, but his dad, my grandfather, said, get a real job. So he went and joined the NYPD.
Yeah.
Boom. Right.
That's so funny because I think Latin people, there's something in us that it just makes us performers. There's a lot of Italian people and Brazilian people and Hispanic people. And I don't know what the right term is because... you know what I'm saying? If you're from Guatemala, I don't know if you'd like to be called Hispanic because that means from Spain, but you're like, do I have more like indigenous roots? Anyway, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Basically Latin people talking about like people who speak Spanish and Portuguese and Italian and Mediterranean people. There's some fire in us that makes us performers. There's a lot of us.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad was probably 20 years older than your dad in the Bronx, Italian. Self-taught opera singer.
Jeez.
Got several opportunities where he met people and they were like, come to my school, don't worry about the money. We're going to teach you how to do this. And he couldn't, same thing. His parents like, what are you, crazy?
What are you, crazy?
You know what I'm saying?
Do you recall the moment that you found that spark or whatever? What was the catalyst that you're like, I'm doing this?
So I was in the Army and I got an early out, right?
Hey, Tony, speak a little bit closer to the mic.
Really? Yeah, I feel like I'm fucking yelling. Dude, but I guess you can control the and then after post, right?
No, you're good.
So the last 6 months, it takes forever for anything to happen in the Army. So I'm waiting for, I talked to my commander. I'm like, I'm not really feeling this. She's like, yeah, I agree. I think you're really intelligent. You're a smart person, but you don't really fit in here. This ain't for you. No, we agree. Like that was like the one time we had like a real moment because I had a difficult time in the Army because really they want you to conform. And when you're in RTC, they teach you to be a leader, teach you to be a leader, teach you to be a leader. And also I was 23 and like had no idea. I was dumb, I'll just say. As a kid, I was 23 years old. Anyway, so it took 6 months to get out of the Army. So you're like, oh man, when I get out, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. You're thinking, I'm never cut my hair again, stuff like that. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna do stand-up comedy. And I went and did it February 12th, 2000. And it was the first time I ever felt like alive in my entire life. My entire life, I'm like, oh, this is what people mean. Mm-hmm. I like felt the first time I felt like, oh, I feel alive. You know what I'm saying? Besides maybe some drug experience, but at the same time, I was completely like, I'm not on any drugs. I'm right here. And that's how I feel all the time now when I'm doing stuff like this, when I'm doing a good audition, when I'm like working out, that feeling is like the feeling. It's the feeling.
Yeah.
You know
it's the feeling.
It's that we all want to be. It's the feeling of being so in the moment that you're just like right now.
Yeah.
It feels otherworldly almost. You know
it does. It does. It's what you strive for. And when you're not there, it can get if you can you can get into a tailspin. I have at least.
But when you are there, it's amazing. I mean, I feel that way with writing music. It's like there are some times where you're just in the moment on something and you look up and all of a sudden like 5 hours have gone by.
I've been on set filming a scene and you're like, what time is it? Like, someone like, 7:30. and you'll do the scene a couple times, and you're like, someone's like, oh, I'm getting really tired. You're like, oh, what time is it? Oh, 11:30. Dude, I was on NBC The Brave, right? We're outside doing this set, and there's a bunch of different pieces and stuff like that. So there's a lot of coordination. It was like a road scene. So it's like they were doing a wide, there's a lot of things going on. We go to leave, and I go, what time is it? Like 11:30? And someone was like, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I was like, time disappears.
Yeah.
Time doesn't exist. There's no such thing as time.
Yeah.
Construct.
Yeah.
I saw your work on The Brave, by the way.
You saw it?
Really good.
You liked it?
Yeah.
The Russian dude?
Yes.
Thank
Can
you.
I ask you what? I did want to ask you. I want to get a little bit underneath the hood because it's been a long time since you and I have talked acting.
Yeah.
And and now you've taught acting
For 10 years.
For how much? How long?
10 years.
For 10 years now.
Yeah.
I remember I audited your
me and
class.
Paul ran Meisner Sides for
right.
2 years.
Yeah.
And I've been teaching in Atlanta for 9.
Oh my God.
I know.
Has it been?
9 years,
Talk
bro.
about a flow
October's
state.
9 years.
That's what
Wow.
9 years of a flow.
Dude,
Look up in 9 years.
I
gone
remember
by.
like auditing one of your classes just because I was in town. I was just sat in the back
I
one time.
remember that.
and I
You're
was
in
like,
one of my
look at
Meisner
somebody.
videos. Yeah.
Yeah. Because a lot of people that listen to this, some of them are actors. They're just gigging musicians, directors. They're some people in London. So just for people and for the actors too, I think it would behoove me as well as them. I just wanted a little bit about the process, like get a little bit of what the sausage is like making it with Tony when audition comes across your table. How do you approach it? Like, give me from start to finish. What does that look like?
Okay. Well, I tell you how I approach auditions, and then I'll talk to you how I approach my work, and then
Beautiful.
because auditions is like, let's just latch on to one thing.
Yeah.
But I always tell people your complete work includes building a character, doing dramatic analysis, and then learning how to be in the moment and work off your scene partner, right? So those 3 things. So for your homework, generally, the first thing I play a lot of bad guys. So just one of those things that you would do in a dramatic analysis, you're just like, oh, I want this guy to like, no, I'm the boss. So you just play the relationship. Or you play a couple tactics. You know, it's not that hard.
It's not that hard.
And if I'm playing a Russian guy, I play Russian guys. A Russian boss, you're just like, I got it. An Italian boss, I got it. A guy who's just like, if you have played the character before, I only need 1 or 2 things. Sometimes, the other day I did an audition for Mark Van Cannon for The Waterfront. And I did my homework because I was like, God, I don't know what's going on. And I wrote out my want and my tactics and stuff like that. And I got the scene on its feet like Lee Strasberg talks about. And Stanislavski, actually, that came from Stanislavski, where he doesn't like to do a lot of talking about the scene. You like write it out, you go do a little dramatic analysis, and you get up on its feet. And you'll be like, oh, the person in the scene that you owe him money. So let's improvise a scene about he owes you money. And then, so in the rehearsal of it with my scene partner, I was like, oh, this is what I want. I got to get this over there.
I love that.
And then it just all of a sudden it makes sense. And you'll do it again. You're like, hey, can we try it a different way? Because I had originally thought the character was a bad guy, but then I realized that the character was like an assistant to the bad guy. So that's where the disconnect was for me. So I went to do the scene. I'm like, oh, this scene for me is I need to get this over there. And you're blocking me. I'm like, we're about to get arrested. We got a lot of illegal stuff. We got to. Do you know what I'm saying, dude?
Yeah, there's a lot you can figure out getting it up on its feet that you won't find out just by doing analyses.
Generally speaking, I can, but a couple times for me.
Yeah.
You're
No,
like,
for me too.
Oh, one time I was doing a scene for The Chosen.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just going to move this a tiny little bit. I feel claustrophobic. I didn't know. It was like a scene between a husband and wife. And it was just like, oh, but you're this person. And don't you like this guy and this and that? It's like, what is going on in the scene? And we did the scene, I think it was with Rebecca Galarza. And I was like, oh, the scene's just about our relationship, just about us. It's about relationship. So generally speaking, in an audition, I would say pick one thing for dramatic analysis, focus on it, whether it's the relationship, what you want, a specific tactic that works, and just kind of lean heavy into that. It's not the final product. It's just a quick exploration that we got to get back in 24 hours and like get in as soon as possible and make it really good and make it feel real.
Yeah.
So generally speaking, just latch on to like whatever makes the most sense in the moment.
I was going to flesh it out for you, Mike, what he just said.
Well, I was like, let's backtrack real quick to the script analysis. Like if you get a script for the first time, what, like, I imagine there's multiple reads. What's the first read? Like, what does that mean to you, and what do you go through when you're reading it for the first time?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing to do when you first look at a script, and you'll be surprised how many people are just like, cool, what's going on in the scene? You just look at it like, what is going on? Almost like you're reading a book and you're like, cool, page one, you're like, oh, this guy's here and this is that and blah, 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 blah. And you're just trying to like take in information, figure out what is happening in the scene. And then I like to sit down and I write it all out and make sure. And then I go through and I underline the triggers and operatives, meaning like the important words in my sentence, the words from your sentences that trigger me, any note that's happening, if you threaten me, if you pull out a gun, something like that. You get to the heart of what's happening. Then I figure out my want, what I do to get that want, which is things we call tactics. Konstantin Stanislavski is a turn of the century Russian director who was the founder of Moscow Acting Theater. He was an actor and he found himself frustrated because normally acting back in the day a lot was an outside in theory, meaning like, cool, I want you to sit like this and move your foot a little bit. And instead of those shoes, I'm gonna have you in nicer shoes because your character's a little rich.
Yeah.
And so
nicer
everything was
shoes.
outside in.
Yeah.
Everything was
nicer shoes.
outside in. And so he's doing Chekhov, right? He's doing a performance of Chekhov. And Chekhov has plays where it's just like, it's all subtext. He has a play called The Stronger where one woman's laying into the other woman and the other woman's just sitting there like this, listening. So how do you direct that person? Right? So he figured out like, oh, this is an inside out thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is a really how we feel about things. And we're moving from moment to moment to moment to moment based on the feeling that's happening between us two. It has nothing to do with performance. It has everything to do with experience. So good actors, hey, look, if you're doing children's theater, sometimes it is a performance, right? You can turn it up in comedy a little bit, right? But in a naturalistic or organic performance, like an indie movie, it should feel like you're saying things that affect me, and then I say things that affect you, and then the river flows.
So for you, there's a difference between a performer and an actor based on the context of whatever it is that they're doing.
I think that there's a kind of acting called performative, and I think there's a kind of acting called experiential. And so as a performer, you have to do both, right? If you're a host, but you still do the same thing, right? If I'm in a scene, right, and I am your dad and I'm going to take you to Disney because you've been sad because your mom passed away. So my one is I want to distract you. I want you to be happy. So I'm going to distract you and excite you and fire you up. That's the same thing a host of an audience does, right? He's just like, you guys ready for a great show? The show is, the audience is the scene partner. My want is I want you to leave like this is the best show of your life, right? I want you to enjoy yourself. Yeah. I'm going to play the tactics to fire up, to excite, to remind, to educate, to inform, to guide, to lead. This is what all human behavior is. You have a want, you want something from someone, and then you're using these things called tactics. So basically, Stanislavski broke down human behavior and said, this is for when inspiration fails you. This is when you go play a cop. You've never been a cop. So you're like, cool. You look at all the aspects of a police officer. Say, how do they act and why? And then what do they want and how do they get it? What are the normal tactics that police use, right? What do lawyers do? They lead, they guide, they cajole. And I talked to a lawyer that I met at a wedding, and he's like, when I'm writing my final whatever thing,
statement,
the
closing
statement, that's exactly what I do. I go right here, I'm going to joke with them. Right here, I'm going to make fun of myself. Right here, I'm going to like get them on my side. Right here, I'm going to tempt them. I'm going to teach.
They're making a one sheet for.
They're making a one sheet. Yeah.
That's how you get what you want from people.
Yeah.
You go up to a woman in a bar and you're like, you flirt with her, you joke with her, you negate her, you like play coy with it. This is human behavior. So Stanislavski, Lee Strasberg, Stella Adler, they're psychologists, man. They break down human behavior. And it's like, this is how you replicate it when you get a work that doesn't automatically resonate with you.
I gotta say too, I gotta circle back because this blew my mind.
Tell me.
We've done theme park shows for a long time, and one of the best tools, right? We've spoke about this before. There's some people when they're performing, when they're acting, there's kind of a glass wall between you and the crowd.
100%.
And then there's some other people where they're more willing or able to take whatever the audience is giving you and then incorporate it and play with it. But I feel like I've evolved to grow into that second type, but I've never labeled the audience as a scene partner. And to slap that label on it is like rocking my world right now.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
And look, it's not always appropriate. And sometimes you do have to have that wall up because sometimes you know how it is at theme parks. Sometimes they're not a willing scene partner. So you got to pull their wall up and you're like, now I'm just acting like the Green Goblin.
Right.
But then sometimes when you get a good partner and you're just right there with them, that's when the magic happens. When you end up saying things. That's why comedy shows, good comedians, you're just like, you feel really seen by them. They look right at you and they're just like, oh, cool.
I
You
love
know what I'm
that
saying?
feeling.
What's up, Zenzers?
Yeah.
And you're like, because you feel like they're seeing you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good. That's why we feel like we know actors, because just like Stephen Lane says, right, that vulnerability is a strength. So the more vulnerable you are on set, and that's why it's nice to work with good people, because you have to be able to trust them. And like, just like other musicians, you're like, I know, Andy, we're like plugged in with each other.
Yeah.
And it's like
Having a conversation without having a conversation.
sensitivity. And if we can include the audience too, even better.
Oh,
You
my
know?
God.
But that's a great observation. Yeah. That's a great observation.
Going back to what he's saying, so all those tactics, the kind of the magic that you hope to create is that experience where you're in it, you're in that moment, that flow state. And I can always feel myself. If I'm losing, I'm getting a little outside of myself. I could start to see myself a little bit. That's where I'm like, okay, there's a disconnect. I got to find, and there's tricks I'm sure Tony could talk about where you'll find ways to get back in, ground yourself, feel your feet on the floor, connect to your breath, do things, put it more on the person in front of you to kind of get back, listen,
look at them.
There's tons of things you can do to kind of ground yourself back into that. But it's realism versus performative, right? Experience. And then you're trying to.
Exactly. And we do have to do it. Look, take 17, bro. You know what I'm saying, dude? Or, you know, the sixth show of the day, you got to be like, I used to go out as the Green Goblin, and I would constantly push the envelope so we would all remember that we're right here in the moment. This is happening right now.
Right.
You're not seeing the same. It's not the same, a repeat performance of what you just saw. Even when I do liquor promos now, right on the side, I started doing liquor promos during the strike. It's like, I really try to make it about this person, this person, this person, not just like, hey, because this and this and this and that. And I try to be like, oh, cool. No, you know what I'm saying? And just, I'm right here. And then all of a sudden you look at your clock, you're like, time to go, baby. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I used to do that as the Green Goblin. I go out and be like, pay attention to them. Don't say something that you've already said. And I would go up to people and be like, oh, what's up, Mos Def? Or something. And everybody in the group would laugh. I'm like, that's how you know you're in the moment, because you saw something and said it. And it was about him. It wasn't just a canned joke.
Right. It's a
like,
genuine.
oh, you look like Jay-Z because Jay-Z's popular right now. I was like, no, you actually look like Mos Def, and you look like Jim Carrey, and you look, or Al Pacino, or whatever it is. And when everybody in the group laughs, you're just like, that's a win.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
It's like an empathy and a genuine curiosity in the moment.
Exactly. And the bravery to call something out.
Yes.
It's a superpower. Acting as a craft and storytelling, it is so transferable to so many different realms and domains, whether it's being a lawyer and writing your closing statement or your opening statement, you're trying to win over the juror, or sales if you're trying to sell a product and you need to connect with something. Empathy, negotiation, massive. To empathize with your character. If you're going to play somebody that you completely hate, like you would, I could never be friends with this person. But now I have to understand the psyche of this individual, what kind of shoes they wear, you know, that kind of a thing, right?
Have you run into that ever? I'm curious. Maybe
he plays bad guys all the time.
I mean, like you've been asked to do something that you're like, I don't connect with this.
Okay. Well, let me say this first about what you said about sales. I think the reason I'm a good salesperson is, first of all, they don't give me quotas, so I don't care if you buy it or not. And also, I don't want you to buy something that you don't want. The best kind of salespeople are like, let me figure out what you want and then how to connect you with that thing. The best kind of sales is a negotiation is when you both walk away feeling like you've won.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I give you $10 off. You get a great deal. I make a bunch of money, and buying exactly the thing that you wanted.
Yeah.
You're like, that guy's awesome. That woman's awesome. That person's awesome. That's ideal. There's nothing wrong with sales. We all need to buy things. I bought my camera at Best Buy because the person knew everything about cameras. So I'm not going to go and like for $20 less, get it on Amazon. I'm like, this person taught me everything about the camera.
Yeah.
So I felt connected to him, and he didn't care if I bought it or not. He's just like, whatever.
Take it or leave it.
Yeah. So I went back and I said, man, I'm buying this from you because you taught me everything about this, and it's more money than I want to spend, but I don't care. You gave me something for free, and in turn, I'm going to give you this thing. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I won't pay a child molester.
Yeah.
And I auditioned for this movie the other day. There was like a soccer coach a long time ago. There was a role in South America. He was like, had some scene with a 12-year-old and an 11-year-old. I was just like, no, I'm so sorry. I'm not doing this audition. And I did this audition the other day, and it was just like, you had a lot of scenes with like a child. And I was like, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, I would play, I don't want to give away the plot of the movie. It's not my place, but let's say there was a movie where like, I'm befriending a child to get into the house, to kidnap the wife, to save her, or take her back to Russia because she's actually married to something like that.
Yeah.
But I ain't doing no weird shit with fucking kids. Fuck that shit. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to go there because people think acting is pretending. Acting is not pretending. Acting is having a real experience with real people. So if I have to do a scene with a 12-year-old where I'm hitting on them,
right?
I'm good.
You have sounds like you really embody and embrace whatever the character is in a really holistic way.
Sure.
And
I
can totally get that.
Yeah, and I could play somebody who had an inappropriate relationship with the boss's wife, or like even somebody who was underage, because every man has been there where some 17-year-old is hitting on you. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't mind playing like that. She's an adult, you know what I'm saying? Like they're not an adult, you know what I mean? Within the concept of the script.
Right.
But I'm not doing some scene where in real life, this is really happening between two actors.
Yeah.
First of all, they would probably cast somebody 21 to play 17. So that's number one.
Right.
Second of all, she accepted the role as a conscious adult. A 12-year-old doesn't know what this is. An 8-year-old doesn't know what this is. So I'm sitting here doing some weird ass scene with somebody who's not even a willing participant.
Right.
I did an audition one time where, and I don't want to go into the details of it because I don't want to out the person, but basically they were using a lot of real people. And I was playing like a dad who was sort of abusive. And they wanted me in this audition to yell at this person who was not an actor, who was 8 years old. So I went like this and did the scene like this. Like, I'm not looking at some kid, because what I do is real and scary and mean.
When you have real values that mean something to you, and you know when something doesn't align with
I'm not looking at some kid who's not an actor and yelling and screaming at him. I don't want to do it even if they are an actor. I'm like, can someone else do this? I'd rather someone else do this.
You bring up a good point. I think
who knows if they're going to be okay?
Yeah.
We're like, oh, they're an actor. They're not an actor. They're 8 years old. They don't even really get this yet.
You're
maybe they do. Maybe they don't. A 20-year-old playing a 17-year-old is very different.
Very different. It's very different. And this is kind of adjacent to this topic. Because I was just talking about this with Laura, is about at times how delicate the psyche of an artist in general could be, you know? That's why you can have toxic directors, toxic teachers
100%.
And as an acting teacher, are there certain red flags actors should look out for when going to coaching, to taping studios, to teachers? I mean, a studio, are there anything that like is waving in your face right now as a red flag?
100%. I would say this. I've been very fortunate to have really good teachers who know how to push you, but respect your boundaries.
Yes.
Whenever you're in a situation, this is for women, when you're in a situation where you feel like someone is crossing your boundaries, they probably are. And it's okay to be like, I'm good with whatever's happening right now. No, thank you. That's all you have to say. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Dude, something happened the other day and I just looked at the person. I was just like, no, thank you.
Yeah. Say no.
So I would say a huge red flag with acting teachers or any kind of teacher is when they have some sort of weird ego. I don't care. I'm a good teacher. I know that I am.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just know that I've always been, people came to me when I was in high school, was like, can you help me with this thing? My mom was a really good teacher. She kind of taught me how to teach by example.
Yeah.
I know how to be like, if you don't understand it this way, I do it this way, and then this way, and this way, and this way. I think in like metaphors and similes. I'm an artist. I don't care if you think I'm a good teacher or not. And so I think it's a huge red flag when acting teachers need you to worship them or like,
Yeah.
Now, I would love for an actor to come up to me and be like, I saw your scene and it was incredible. Like, oh my God.
Because we do need validation at the end of the
I
day.
do,
I do need it.
But I don't need you to, look,
No.
I got a lot from your class. This was the best class I've ever taken. Feels good because that means I made an impact on you. First of all, I throw it out of the way. I mean, in this moment,
Sure.
what you're saying is you had a great experience. I don't need that for my ego. I think that's very dangerous when you start being like, and I'm lucky in that in Atlanta, there's so many teachers.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't staying in your class for 10 years like we did with Lauren.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when I left Lauren's class, and I told her, and she was, you know, it's hard for, I've been molding you and shaping you for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're just like, later I'm going to Atlanta. Because my first year when my students had been in my class for a year and I was really building a good class and a good group, and they were like, I'm out. I'm like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
But you just,
Does it?
yeah. So I had to, so I can't even imagine now they're in my class 9 more years. And I saw them grow from not knowing how to act to being a really good actor.
Mm-hmm.
And now you just, it's gotta be really tough. But, you know, obviously Lauren and I talked about it, we're adults and she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that and I'm like, you know, I was a kid too. I'm sure that whatever I could have handled, you know what I'm saying? My point being is that she has the self-awareness to be like, oh, was I that way? And I was like, I mean, this is my perception of it.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
we can, but I think it's really dangerous when you have some teachers that cross boundaries, basically act like the only way you're going to be successful is through me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not true. Every single acting teacher is teaching the exact same thing. Dramatic analysis, how to build a character, and then how to work off your scene partner. That's what every single acting test is teaching. It's not a fucking secret.
Mm-hmm.
I could literally give you 3 sheets of paper that I use and be like, this is what I do. The only other thing that I'm really good at is telling when you're bullshitting as an actor.
Yeah.
That's why I'm really good at teaching Miser, because I'm like, you're on the bullshit level and we can go deeper and deeper and deeper because I can see it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a good martial arts teacher can be like, your rotation isn't where it needs to be. Or you can look at a gymnast and be like, they can just see, you can see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
A musician can listen and be like, you're out of tune. I was a musician growing up and I can still hear when someone's flat or sharp. It's just in you. You're just like, oh, you're off beat.
Yeah.
I can feel it when it's right and I can feel it when it's not. And I can close my eyes and listen and be like, this scene isn't quite there, and do something, you're like, and now it's there. That's a great acting teacher.
Yeah.
When they can tell you there's more room for you to grow and allow you to get there.
That's exactly what I was talking about. So we did second episode of this, I came on here and I vented because I was working with a guy who's basically told me, I'm good enough to be, I'm good enough of an actor to just coast and be good enough, and most people will applaud it. He's like, but there's more in there, and it's an inches game, and it's up to you if you want to go deeper. Because I was shallow. I could get away with being, but I trusted him enough to be able to say that to him, like to trust that he was on the outside looking at me, be like, you're good, but you could be great.
He
right?
said that to you, or you said that to him?
He said that to me, and I trusted him, and he's fucking great, great director.
Sure.
But that's what it is. It's somebody on the outside that you need that could see and call you out and be like, yeah, you're bullshitting.
Who has no ego wrapped up, like
none whatsoever.
And I literally like
absolutely none.
I would tell my students when I taught a foundations class, and by the way, I was like, oh, we should call it Foundations. What a great idea! And then I saw Lauren at a class called Foundations. Like,
shit,
that's where I got that name from.
Yeah,
but it's the 3rd class, right? The first class was like warm-up games and blah, 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 teach him a little Miser. The second class was like learn how to break down a scene. And the 3rd class was this is only the 3rd class. Some people, the 3rd class I've ever taken. And I'd be like, you're bullshitting. This monologue doesn't feel real.
Yeah.
And then they would do it and do it and do it. And I was like, these 3 sentences feel great. Did you feel how that felt?
Yeah.
I was like, look, if you want to go take some class at a church and they're just like, God, you did such a good job. I was like, that's not me. But also that's okay if you want to go do that. I'm not that dude. I'm going to tell you these headshots aren't good. I'm going to tell you this scene isn't good. I'm going to tell you like, I'm going to be real with you because that's actually being kind.
Mm-hmm.
Your friends are the ones who tell you, hey, dude, you have a drug problem. You have a drinking problem.
Mm-hmm.
Those are your real friends. Your real friends. I used to go off about women to my friend Mila Simpachi and Capoeira, and she'd be like, Mafia. I'd be like, yeah, you're right, too. Whatever, my bad. You know,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Lauren
yeah, I know
would
what
call
you're
us out and be like, hey, you're fucking up. You're like, shit, you know what? You're right. And sometimes you disagree. Sometimes you're like, cool, I may be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm doing this thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You need to have somebody in front of you who's willing to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Especially in the arts and crafts.
By the way, I just want to clarify, when I was talking about Lauren before, I meant that in the utmost respect. She's the one who'll be like, she doesn't have the ego in the sense of like, when I came to her and I was like, this felt like this.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry if it did. And we were like, cool.
Yeah.
That's
Dug
because
it,
she does.
boom.
She knows she's a good teacher. She doesn't need people
Yeah.
to worship her.
Exactly.
She knows she's a good teacher. She works all the time, and she's, you know what I'm saying, dude.
Yeah.
And so I think I think guys do this too, and it makes me really angry. Guys do this weird ass manipulative shit with women, where they play all these fucking games, and you're like, that's very unhealthy. True bravery, a true player, is when you lay it out and you're just like, you can be with me or not be with me. I'm the fucking man.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a great experience. But when people start to try to manipulate women and play these little head games, they're like, oh, well, I thought you said you liked to have fun. And I thought you were adventurous and daring, but you're manipulating her.
Yeah.
So that's the difference, is how much of your own ego. I don't care if you walk away. I'm going to be myself.
You don't
know
want
what I'm
somebody that plays games with you. You want somebody who's going to be honest.
Exactly. Exactly.
Typically, it's somebody who doesn't have an ego, but
or has worked through it. We all have egos.
Yeah.
Work through it. Lauren has taught long enough, and I've taught long enough to be like, I know that I'm a good teacher. Probably
Yeah.
in the beginning, I didn't know, but I know I'm a good teacher. I've had enough, you know how it is. I know I'm a good actor too. I've had enough experiences where people are like, wow, you're really good. You're like, okay, good.
yeah.
That's at least on this thing that I'm good
No,
at. when
you are a
it's-
good teacher. I watched you teach. You are a good teacher.
Thanks. Hopefully I've gotten better since then.
Yeah, it was early too. And I was like, I got to see how Tony teaches. And I was actually blown away. I was actually like, damn, the kid teaches. I would be so nervous to teach the first time, you know?
Yeah. The first couple classes.
Oh, yeah.
I was just like, especially scene study, was like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Oh, yeah.
And then you learn to trust yourself, and you'll say things that come seemingly out of nowhere, and it works. And you're like, you're experiencing the genius of the universe. It's like, must be like a jazz musician when they're playing and they're just like, and you're like, what a cool lick. And you're just like, I don't know where it came from. Or a musician, Lin-Manuel Miranda was just talking about, he was on the subway the other day, and he was just like, the song just comes to you. And I think that's a nice way of thinking about it, is if you take yourself out of the equation and be like, I know how to create the circumstances as an actor for the magic to happen, and take myself out of it a little bit. You know what I mean?
There was something, actually, Mike was, that just happened to Mike. Mike was sitting here and he was writing music. He's a composer of an organization. And, we were trying to get this thing fixed, or Leon was trying to get it fixed. And I was trying to come up with some different contingency plans before you came over. And Mike's just like, all right, cool. So he's like, I just have this thing in my head. I got to get it out. And he just sat there and wrote a couple bars. And he's like, check this out.
That's so dope.
Yeah, that same type of moment where it's like, this is in my head. And it's not like it's not always like this. You know, sometimes I'm spending a lot of time working on something.
Trying to find something.
It's like 2 bars and I've spent 3 days on it, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But this is one of those moments where it's like, okay, this is happening right now. I need to put it out there, and it feels right. And it was just an easy, 8-measure phrase. It was like, it just fits.
Dude, totally. And that happens, and you'll pick up a scene and you're just like, oh God, I know exactly. Roll the camera. The other day I got a guest star audition as a top of show guest star for Bull. And I looked at it, I was just like, Rebecca was over at my house to tape. And I go, can we take this right now? And
Just
I just
get it
did
up.
it.
Yeah.
And I sent it to my manager, and she's like, I know you're going to, I don't know why, but I know you're going to. And it's just, I just think when it's right, it's right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And if you can trust that, I don't know. I don't want to say take yourself out of the equation. I do like taking myself out of the equation when it's a two-hander. A lot of my scenes are like, I'm the engine of the scene. Because I'm the bad guy. So I'm like the muscle, I'm the motor. And then the other person is just reacting.
Can I ask you a question about that? I legitimately, so I had something come into that I've been working on, and this is something new I've been doing, but I love it. I love getting it on its feet. But when you rehearse something, and say you got some time, you know, maybe it's it's not due for another week, or maybe it's a play, right?
Mhm.
No, fuck it. It's an audition. Couple pages.
But Rebecca, my friend's coming over at 7 and it's like 4 and I'm like done with it. So I'm just like,
yeah. I
yeah.
want to know, what does it look like when you get it up on its feet? What does that mean to you?
I'll tell you. So a lot of people think they're trying to memorize the scene. They're not memorizing a scene. You're learning a scene. They're learning a scene, and then you just practice it with, like, you know, Jack Nicholson over there, or João.
Yeah.
And you're basically like exploring the scene.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And just like,
100%.
that's what Stanislavski talked about. That's what Lee Strasberg talked about. Rehearsal. A lot of actors don't like rehearsal. To me, rehearsal is nice because it's not about figuring out the way you're going to do it. It's about exploring the totality of the ins and outs of the moment that you're in.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you'll do a scene, you're like, God, I never even thought about the beer bottle. Like, what if this were the whole thing to me? Because blah, 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 blah. You're just exploring. It's just exploring.
The word you said is totality. I love that because it's infinite. So the longer you stay in that rehearsal, the more we can get out of it, and it fleshes the world out, is what you're saying.
For example, let's say we have to pack up this room, right? You walk in, you're like, it's overwhelming to think about it step by step. You just start moving stuff. You grab this, you're like, okay, well, these 3 things could kind of fit in a box together, and we'll put all of the furniture over there. And then the next, because I'm packing my Airbnb right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way to plan it out. You just kind of got to do it.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, well, this will fit over here, and I'll put this in, and then this, and the next thing you know, and then all of a sudden, the room's empty.
What are you laughing at,
It's
Mike?
just literally how most of the time for me, how I write music, where I'm like, this, I'll put out an idea and like, it'd be like a 4-bar thing, and it'd be like, I like that, but this will fit over here.
Yeah.
And then if I move this and then extend this thing, but then I can fit this other piece in here, and then it's literally a puzzle.
When I was on Tyler Perry's Sisters, it was Camp Quarantine. It was one of the first, I think the first project to come back after the pandemic. He basically set the standard for the entire industry for how you could have a production.
100%. Yeah. I
Like
remember
that was all him.
Yeah.
He got with some experts and paid for it independently. Shout out to TP. And was just like, oh, we could do it like this. And we had test after test after test after test. And it was the most safe. But we were there for like a week, staying in these like Civil War barracks and
So you
stuff like
stayed
that.
on site. Yeah.
Yeah, I stayed. The first night I was in a general's barracks, and like you could feel the like spiritual. You could feel the spirits in there. I'm not exaggerating. It was super scary to be in there all by yourself. I was like, this is crazy. So I would just walk around the compound and just go over the scene over and over. And I was like, what if this were the most important moment? Let's explore this moment. Let's explore this moment. Let's explore this moment. And so to me, a good critic, for example, let's say you wrote a script or you wrote a piece of music. I'll just talk about a script because I know more about that stuff. Or no, I'll talk about an audition. When I do private coachings, I'm not like, you should laugh here and that's for you to decide. If you don't know anything about acting, it might be like, what if we did a laugh here? What if we allowed this to affect us? The best notes I ever got from like Daniel Baldock was just like, the top feels a little bit rushed. You're like, oh, okay. So then you go explore the top. You're like, oh, you were right. And then that kind of got me into this other thing that I already knew, kind of like with your music. This part, maybe the intro needs a little fleshing out. Fleshing out is maybe a good way of saying it.
I don't get directed that often anymore, only because the plays that I've been doing, a lot of and there's been I feel like a movement in this in theater, is that we move our focus towards the technical aspect of things now, where it's like, yeah. Well, the scene's up on its feet. Cool. What the lights or sound design or what we now need to build the sets now, it just all goes out that. So to actually have this conversation, to be directed, we had Amina Kaplan, who was my director at Disney, and she's also directed Lion King, the tour, and directed tons of stuff. You know, and to talk about the minutia of directing actors and what that's like, I feel like that's something I haven't experienced in a long time. You know, and I long for it, because when it comes at me, like, just to hear you speak about pacing at the top of a scene, it's like, man, when's the last time I heard somebody stand in front of me and like give me that? It's been a while, I guess.
You know what the best kind of director is? The best kind of director is to help you get to where he would like you to be. When I was doing Manhunt, the director came out to me just like, so in this moment, if you feel like it, and you find yourself losing your shit,
I already love this.
you can stay there. You don't feel like you need to reel it in. Fucking just go for the fences. And it's one of my favorite scenes I've ever done. I don't know if it's the best scene I've ever done. It's my favorite scene I've ever fucking done.
Just give you free
Bro,
license.
go for it.
What
He
a
directed The Wonder Years. The guy he directed The Wonder Years. I never got to tell him, oh my God, dude, I grew up on that show.
You have to be like a nerd out in front of him.
Yeah. But he was super cool dude and he was very gentle. I think the other Ethan Hawke talked about this, but the best kind of direction you can give people if you want them to do something specific is just, if you look up acting in the dictionary, it says to take action, to do something. So this is what we should always be focused on, actors, generally speaking. Sometimes you develop a character and you let it fly, like I think Willem Dafoe talks about. Just be like, I'd really like you to harass the person. You're kind of berating them. I'd really like you to like lay into them.
Right.
Or you're like poking at them. I really want you to like hammer them. You know, like Lauren teaches us tactics.
Yeah.
Direct and tactics. If you want something specific, give me a specific note. I will do that. Tell me exactly what to do. And most actors want to be told what to do and want to be told that was really good.
Oh, 100%.
That's all we want.
want to be told.
In fact, I'd say one of the realizations I had to have as a working actor is to realize like, oh, no notes are good notes. No notes means it was good. Moving on means like, I guess we got it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They will tell you when they want to fix something, but or adjust something, but not getting a note, you're like, oh, this is good.
Perfect.
Yeah, we did it.
No feedback is the best feedback. 100%.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, now this is commercial shoot. And don't expect commercial shoots. You've been on one. You were actually on a.
Yep.
Kid was on his first SAG National commercial shoot over here. He's not even an actor. He was playing a drummer.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
But you see how the monster, the machine. It's
oh my gosh, it was. I mean, the production value of just the commercial suit was wild. Like it was for, I can't remember. It was cognac. It was one of the cognac.
50 cents cognac.
Remy Martin. Yeah, it was for a Super Bowl ad. And when we walked on set, the production was just massive on this football field, and they built like a tunnel. There's tunnels there, but they built their own that was more controlled, and like just the scale of the whole thing was wild for me.
Liquor companies have money, bro.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They got money.
We went into overtime, and they were like, psh.
No problem.
Yeah,
bro.
stay.
They basically like, to me, liquor companies are like, I think they're part of the families of the richest people in the world, quite frankly. They've been selling liquor since liquor exists. You know what I'm saying? Dude, I work for Hennessy, and they pay me well, they treat me well, and they send us out with nice stuff, and we give away nice stuff. They got money.
Shout out to Hennessy.
They're not even worried about it, dude.
But I
didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no,
you were a drummer on the show.
Yeah, well, it was a commercial. Taisha, we've spoken about. She
did The Lion King too, right?
No,
she did some other show that you were in. Oh, the storytelling one.
The Pandora one. Yeah. He did that too. Yeah,
gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So she booked the commercial, but then was so kind and generous. She like talked with the people and I guess whoever she was working with booking, and they expanded the roster. So instead of one drummer, it was a full drum line. And so they brought us out there, and I mean, it was a unique experience for sure. The funny thing is, like, we were there for 8 hours and then another 4 hours of overtime. And then when the commercial came out, it was like cut to like 2 seconds of somebody's hands, and that was it. And then on the back end of it, then they released like a special features part of it when we're in that.
Was it more money than you ever made in your life on the job? Or?
No. The way that they booked the rate was different.
Okay, yeah. Special skills or something like that.
Yeah, it was some kind of group rate. I don't remember exactly how it went.
Dude.
It was enough. I was, for me, it was like, okay, this is a gig.
That's
yeah. What was I going to say? Does Taisha drum?
Oh, I'm going to clip that.
Yeah, she drums. Yeah.
She's really good.
I'm clipping that.
Well, I knew.
No. I know. She does drum, and she's really good. But I just think she's our best friend, and I just think it's so funny that you asked that.
Well, because she's low key about it. And she doesn't go around talking about all the things that she does. Like
she doesn't tell anybody. You're right. She's fucking sick, and she doesn't say anything about it. But that's so funny to me. But commercial acting is a different beast, right? I find
How so? Because you've done so much more of it than I have.
I
Professionally, and have been paid to do more of it than I have.
maybe, but I find the tolerance to have to just be completely malleable and just open to the possibility of being offended, talked down to just for a paycheck. That's commercial acting, I feel like.
Yeah.
I just shot one.
Your eyes look weird. Can you open them up more?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dude,
I totally care.
I swear to God.
Is it because the process is so quick? Like commercial shooting, I imagine, is a lot faster.
It's because you're working directly with someone who's a client.
Yeah.
When you go to a film set, he might be the producer or the writer, and we have a vision together if I'm the director. But on a film set, the director is number one,
right?
As far as creative
fulfilling
decisions.
their vision.
On a commercial, I'm the director, but he's like the client. He's the producer and he's the client, and they're just like, she looks weird. Can we like see more of her eyes?
It's exactly what it is.
The director's
Inserting
the
another
employee.
cook into the
director's
kitchen.
an employee.
Oh, dude,
you know?
it's
I mean,
so-
respectfully, I don't. I'm an employee too. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this is from what I'm told. You know what I'm saying?
No, but it's kind of, it's like that. It's the vernacular, their verbiage, the way they communicate is like,
It's corporate.
he
Yeah.
doesn't look good. Is there something we can do with his hair? It's
Yeah.
just like,
He
you
didn't
feel
look
like
that
a mannequin.
skinny in the audition.
Mm-hmm.
Was he that skinny?
Oh gosh, you're bringing me back.
Yeah.
I
No,
just-
no.
I just
On a film set, you're not saying that stuff to
no.
you know what I'm saying?
Dude, and I'm sure you've been on way more film sets than I have, and the variance of like how chill to how high strung it is on commercials, it's always just kind of. If I ever get on a commercial shoot, and I just did one with Kevin Hart, and that was like
No kidding.
the whole time. Like,
Is Kevin
everyone's-
cool?
Kevin's amazing.
So
Kevin
he
was the
keeps it
coolest part.
cool, and everybody else he lets everybody else stress.
Hey, dude.
He seems like a cool character, and he's like built for it.
He's just always working. He's
Dude,
amazing.
him and The Rock are like everything they touch is gold, dude. And they just produce.
Good for
They're
him.
like making money for like generational wealth, bro.
I hope he gets some rest. I
think he's one of those people who's just like, let's make hay while the sun shines.
Might as well, I guess.
He's probably gonna, maybe when he's 80, he's just like, they ain't gonna be calling me to do this stuff when I'm 80. They probably will him though. They'll find a way to put him in it. But he's probably, I think a lot of people are getting on the vibe of like, look, I Airbnb'd my house because there was no work in Atlanta and we're working in auditions. I'm like, I got to get out of here. 2 weeks in Tampa, I'm like, I'm losing my mind. We are people who need to produce.
Yeah.
We're doing a podcast for no money
Yeah.
on a Friday night.
This is what we
And last Saturday night, I was at the studio doing a Meisner. Do you know what I'm saying?
do. Yeah.
And I was like, all these people here, there were like 30 people at Class X Studios on a Saturday night.
30 people.
Yeah. And like 15, 20 of them were in their 20s. And it's Saturday night.
What?
I would be out getting hammered.
I'd
in
go
my
out getting laid. What
Yeah,
are you
trying
doing?
to.
Yeah, dude.
And
what are
they're
people
doing like Meisner because they want to get better at this thing. And I think a lot of us are realizing like lying on the beach doing nothing doesn't feel good. So that's probably what they realize about themselves. They're just like, no, when I'm producing is when I feel relaxed.
Yeah.
You know?
But can we circle back real quick?
Yeah.
Because you were talking about like the commercial versus the film, and just because I don't know, where does TV fit in that?
Yeah. Great question. I'm glad you asked. Okay. So commercial, in my opinion, I don't know as much about it. Lauren O'Quinn and Andrew probably know way more about it. Commercial, the client is the boss. On a film set, the director is the boss, generally speaking. They have to work with the studio, but this is what I'm told.
Yeah.
And then on a TV show, the showrunner and the writer. Yeah.
Those are all very different, it feels like.
Yeah, so it's a different experience every time. So when I go on a film set, my job is like whatever director wants. Like sometimes the director will come up to me and be like, I told the producers this, but here's what we're going to do. Whatever you want is I'm giving you. And I've been on film sets commercial sets where the director's just like, oh yeah, who's that guy? Oh, that's the director. But like this other woman, Linda's coming up and telling me, what to do.
Linda from State Farm is
No,
like,
seriously, like
Tony,
she's
what's wrong
very
with your
corporate, and
hair?
she's like, "This is what we're going to do, and this and this and that, and this and this and that, and this and this and that," and he's not in charge.
And then TV, like That makes sense. Showrunner, because throughout the series, I'm sure multiple episodes are directed by different people.
Yeah, and look, my experience is not. I was just on Outer Banks, and of course, they're the creators of the show, so it's like.
Quick question about Outer Banks.
Hold on, let me just finish my thought.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. First of all, it's the most amazing experience I ever have. Jonas Pate is everyone on set, all of the actors, all of the crew. It was one of the best experiences I've ever had. So, but he's the creator and the director. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like that was a different experience. And this is what I'm told. It hasn't necessarily been my experience.
Right.
But a lot of times the producers are the directors. So you know what I'm saying? This is what I'm told. This is generally speaking.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because like you said, the directors are just coming in and they're like jobbers. They're directing 1 or 2 episodes. It's probably different when you're the creator and, you know.
So how hot is Chase
Oh,
Stokes?
it is. There it is.
Who?
Seriously?
Tell me which one, because I don't look them up because I don't want to go there as a fan for several reasons. A, because I have a job to do, and B, because...
He's the lead, Tony.
John B?
Yeah.
Dude, he's
so hot.
I know him as who he is to me. He was the coolest dude in the world. He's literally just like, yeah, dude, I used to work in like a Mexican restaurant. And I was,
it's like, can you believe what I'm doing?
I actively made an effort to not be there as a fan because we're staying in a hotel and I need to be there as just your buddy and a normal person who doesn't want your autograph, who doesn't want a picture with you, who isn't trying to get something from you.
Yeah, I was just saying, he's hot. He's a hot guy.
I mean, not to me, but I mean, I know what you mean. I get it. Especially when you see him on TV, you're like, oh, of course.
I think that with
walk out of here.
Where we're at here is
just say he's good looking, Tony.
Everyone on the show is good looking.
I know, actually, yeah.
Are you kidding me?
The most unrealistic thing about the show is how beautiful everyone is, like Vampire Diaries.
Sure.
But like,
you know who really stunned me, to tell you the truth? And again, I don't look up these people, and I don't want to know because I don't want to show up as a fan. I'm there to do a job. But I was sitting by the pool, and again, I let them, first of all, they're in their 20s and they all know each other really well. So they're all hanging out. So I just want to be there as a dude. Like, if you want to have a real conversation and we catch each other in the elevator and you want to tell me you had a really hard day, this is what I'm here for you for.
Sure.
I'm here to be a safe space for you.
Yeah.
Like, I talked to one of the dudes in the gym, and I had a couple other cast members who were like, oh man, because this, and I was just like, who's the guy who plays, he has the shaved head. He plays the brother.
I don't know anyone but Chase Stokes on the show.
Anyway, I just looked at him and was just like, dude, I got to stay out, man. Being around these stunt guys, they're like super jacked. He's like, I know, it makes me feel like I'm back in high school. And we just had like a real moment as two dudes. And that's really what I wanted to be. But I was sitting here by the beach and this woman came up to me and she's like, hey, are you using this chair? And I was just like, oh, I get it. You're a movie star. And she literally like melted me with her eyes. And it was Madeline. It was one of the Maddies.
Okay.
And she just has blue eyes, and she looked right at me, and I was just like, wow.
I get it now. I get it.
You know, and obviously, like, you know, I talked to Jonas one time, and he's like, we took a long time casting these people. I wanted to make sure I had the exact right people. But, you know, I just knew him as like, oh, JD? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying, dude? Mm-hmm. And I really tried to keep it on that level of like, I'm not going to be all weird around you, because they experience, they're on set. They have to have all the pressure of performing as an actor. Then they have to be, they're basically a commodity to the production company. Yeah. And then they're famous. And then they have expectations from their family. I'm just like, I just want to be easy to be around for you.
Yes, you know, I agree with you. I shot something. I was lucky to get up to Atlanta, shoot something this year. And I didn't look up who was in the show. I just know what the show was. But when I went to base camp to do my fitting, I saw Top Dog, Sylvester Stallone, and I'm typically, I mean, you know, in our business, Kev, I was cool. I was like, whatever, you know, all the people that we worked with, how many people you've worked with, you know, sometimes you feel it, sometimes, but dude, Stallone, he still got it too. Kid looks really good. Yeah, that was a big one for me because it's an Italian. Like my dad,
we grew up on those movies,
dude. That
was one of the ways. Me and my dad could. One of the ways we connected was through movies. And Sylvester Stallone was the one person I wish I had been like, I'm so sorry, I never do this, but it would mean a lot to my dad if I could show him a picture of us together. Just because like we don't have the best relationship. He's Italian. We grew up on your movies. You know what I'm saying, dude? That's the one person I regret not being in the moment. We were having a little chill session. He was telling some stories. I would have been like, Mr. Stallone.
Oh.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Does he have a power, power?
He does.
An essence?
He has the power of somebody who's in this business for like 40, 50 years. You know what I'm saying?
Whew, bro, I went
Like,
right
if you
back
meet
into my
Jack
trailer. I
Nicholson,
was
you're
like, I
like-
can't go. I was pacing. I was like, this guy.
You know who I had that moment with where when I was on The Brave, I had just been watching the show. I think it was one show where Colin Salmon, he was on Arrow as the dad. And then he was also on this other show that I had watched, and he was like playing himself as an actor. And he was like so good. And I went to go to Transpo van, and he was getting off, and I just looked at him and was like, I'm so sorry. I just have to tell you, you're an amazing actor. He's like, oh, cool. Thank you so much. He's like, all right.
Just so quick.
At least words came. I've found myself in situations like that with musicians, and was fortunate to be backstage, and I was in the green room with like the singer for Korn, and for me that was like that's my band, man. I grew up with them, and I'm sitting there, and he's telling a story, and I was just like frozen.
Damn it,
frozen.
Mike. That's not what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Queen Latifah has that power too.
Yeah.
I did Equalizer, and I went out to her, and I was just like, I just want to tell you, like, my high school self was like freaking out right now. She's like, okay. She's like, but she has that presence.
Yeah.
She really has it. I think musicians and rappers and comedians, they learn to be in the moment so much that they, you know, I would imagine The Rock's a little bit like that too. Ha ha ha. Yeah. All right there, brother. You know what I'm saying? Like they
know what they do.
He's performing in front of 50,000 people. You know what I'm saying?
They know who they are. They know what they do. They're full of grace a lot of the times.
Would it be okay? Can I share one more? Because I got one more.
Go for
Let
it.
it go, man. I have no agenda.
This was in the inner workings of, I think it was the TD Waterhouse Center. It was before Amway Center for the Orlando Magic.
Yeah.
We're doing the drumline thing there, and I think we're playing the Bobcats. And Michael Jordan had just bought the team, and like he's going to be in the building, and so it was like, listen, here are the rules. Nobody talks to Michael Jordan.
Nobody talks to
you.
Michael
Don't
Jordan.
like just don't do it. If you do it, you're out of here, kind of thing. And the game ends, and everybody's gone, and I'm like the last one in there, and I'm walking through the back halls, and all of a sudden I see him, and he's walking closer. I'm walking closer, and he's got like 6 bodyguards around him, and I'm already like, don't say anything. Like, you can't say anything. And he walks up, looks at me in the eyes, and he goes, nice. Because I got a drum on. And he's like, he thinks it's cool. And the only thing I did, I go, ah.
Stupid.
And then we went on our ways.
God damn it.
Oh my
One
gosh.
time.
You know
one
what?
time.
You know what I lost my words with was oh no, I was just gonna say Shaq. I saw him in an IHOP one time.
Yeah.
He was in the IHOP right across from Universal. And I just went up there and was like, hey man, thank you so much. He was like, yeah, cool.
Yep.
Yeah,
He's one of the coolest. I feel like he handles celebrity and fame and fortune. The dude is a real one.
He's the best, I think, out of anybody that does it.
He's
Shaq,
a real
come on.
one, dude.
Just
Tyler Perry
always-
too, man. I have so much respect
Really?
for Tyler
Is he the
Perry.
same way too?
Tyler Perry is the general. He is like a mogul.
Yeah.
He was riding his bike around the complex. I was just like, he'll go into a Marshall's and just be like, all these layaways I'm paying off. He'll go into a grocery store around the holidays and be like, every senior who comes in here from 5 to 10, your groceries are free. The dude is the man.
Wow.
Serious?
He's the man.
That's a person.
He's a real one. He's a
who-
person who takes care of his community.
Yeah. Who
Not
made
to
it.
mention all the opportunities that he's created for African American people in Atlanta. Not to mention the fact that he's like, we're going to make shows with all people of color, and everybody backstage is going to be people of color too. I'm like, oh, how come I never get auditions for Tyler Perry? I'm just like, because there's like 4 people who are not people of color on every single show, and good.
Yeah.
Because for years, I remember watching a movie in like the early to mid 2000s, and I was like, it was late enough to where I'm like, why is every single person in this movie white except Lil Kim? And she's the like, I'm a secretary, almost a caricature of herself. I'm just like, this is not okay.
Yeah. That's
you know
like
what I'm
every
saying, dude?
Hallmark movie in the 2000s was that. Yeah.
So now I love it. And I have so much respect for Tyler Perry. And I love that Tyler Perry's just like, I don't care.
That's a
This
good
is the
example
way that I'm doing it.
of the right guy who got bumped up, who's giving back. He's like a billionaire, you know, and he's
Mhm.
giving it all back, which is good.
Dude, the opportunities, the friends of mine whose careers and lives
We have
that
one in
he's
common.
changed.
PJ, right?
Yeah.
Took care of him.
Multiple friends in Atlanta who are just
Yeah.
like, I'm in a new bracket. He literally came back when he gave us a speech one time when we were in camp quarantine
Mhm.
because there were a couple actors. You know how it is like everything gets a little bit more loose and we know each other like, dude, I know you don't have COVID. And next thing you know, we're
It's like the
and-
Olympics.
and
We're all gonna have
so he
sex with each
came
other.
out and like
What?
he like he read us the riot act one time.
Yeah.
He's like, man, he's like, we're here because some of you guys have like, forgive if I'm speaking out of turn, but we're here because some of you guys have bought houses, man.
Mhm.
I'm here for you guys. I'm here to do this for you guys so you guys can have income. He's like, I could be on my motherfucking private island drinking Mai Tais right now. And I'm just like, dude, you are the man.
Good for you. Good angle to take on that. Yeah,
He's just like, I don't need to be here producing the show right now.
You guys need me more than I need you, so don't screw
100%.
this up.
So that's what I'm trying to say.
Nice. Good for TP.
And I think, I don't think there's anything wrong with being like called to task sometimes.
No.
He wasn't disrespectful, but he was just like real about it. He's just like, dude, I'm here to help you guys. I'm a billionaire.
Pays to be the boss too, man.
It's just
You know?
kind of circles back to that initial like, you just have the drive to create. I don't, he doesn't have to be there doing it, but he's got a drive to want to build and create things.
And also in the meantime, everyone here is getting paid. I made so much money off that job because we were there for a week doing nothing.
That's right.
He
Oh
was
my God,
he
it's
he changed the industry. He is the reason we all got back to work so quickly after COVID.
Yeah.
It was July. He was paying millions and millions and millions. He's like, I'm 17 million in. We haven't even started filming yet.
Wow.
Of his own money, bro. He's not getting it from producers. He's a producer.
He's a disruptor.
Hmm.
That guy.
Do you know what I'm saying, dude?
Yeah, no, I know.
He's like, I spent this money so we could work when no one's working and no one seems to care because all these other producers work for movie studios and they're not putting, he put his own money out so we could be there and film this show. You know what I'm
It's a
saying?
special type of person and humble beginnings, and it's really good to see that he's out where he's at.
He's a good dude.
Yeah.
I think the universe elevates people who are going to give back.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to be perfect.
No.
Because none of us are. I am not. I'm far from perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the universe elevates people who are like, hey, I need some people to be good, pure. I think Oprah's like that. I think Shaq's like that. And I'm sure there's tons more people. Dak Shepard and Kristen Bell are great people. They're changing and Monica Patton, they're making vulnerability acceptable and desirable. Angelina Jolie, all these people, Brad Pitt. There's a lot of really good people out there with money. We focus sometimes on the rich billionaires who are like selfish and this and that. Meanwhile, we don't know. They could be giving away
We don't know.
$50 million
That's
every
what we
year.
think, yeah.
We shit on them because we feel slighted.
Sure.
And the world is unfair.
I think that's an easy tactic to feel, right? Easy to go down that road, to feel
It is.
slighted as opposed to thinking hard about something.
Yeah, and actually looking up how much money does Elon Musk give away per year?
Yeah. Probably
what I'm
more
saying?
than you think. You know?
Yeah, probably a lot more than we'll ever make in our entire lifetime.
I'm okay with that though, man.
Yeah, no, I know.
Tony, I'm getting tired.
No. I don't want to end yet. Do you? I want to go. Let's keep going.
We could.
Let's just do a couple more minutes.
Yeah, go a couple more minutes.
Because
Sorry.
I've been dying over here. See, we were talking about like.
Yeah, I've been talking the whole time. That's why.
No. I've been like a giddy little kid waiting to like ask this question. But you worked on Succession.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was awesome, and I'll tell you. So a lot of people don't know this, but season 1, they filmed the whole season, and they were spending basically it's like a pilot season. Back in the day, they would have pilot episodes, and they would reduce. What are they out a couple million if they release 3 episodes in the 90s and the show doesn't work? They're making a whole season of a show, and they're spending money on it. One of my friends was like, those helicopters are those are helicopters that rich people have. They're not just some helicopter and they're pretending because people don't know. They're like, those are what actually like billionaires fly in, stuff like that. So we're in New Mexico and the producers there and the directors there and the writers there, and they're sitting around, and it's tense, man.
Was it a tense set? I saw you got to. I'll show you his scene after this. It's gorgeous.
It was tense because they're
Beautiful.
like, we need this to be good.
Huh.
So they're all sitting there. They're like the directors over there in 3 hours, and they're looking at me, and they come over and they're just like, "What do you think about that hat?" I go, "The hat is the only thing about my outfit I don't like." He's like, "Good, let's lose it." And so it was very collaborative, but at the same time, everyone's like, you could just feel it. This needs to be good, right? So we filmed the first scene. Jeremy Strong is super loose with the lines and stuff. So I'm like, okay. And I had this one line that was like a joke. So I'm like, okay, if he's loose, I'm going to follow his lead. So this one line I say, every time we say it, I say something new, funny, something new, funny. So then we do a second scene where he's over there. You'll see it later when you watch it. And we're all cracking jokes about how rich he is. So I have 12 saved up.
Mm-hmm.
So the crew's just like, hey, we're just going to film a little bit of just you guys joking around. He's over there about how rich he is. We improvise for 3 minutes. And afterwards, the whole cast and crew just claps for us. It was fucking so validating, bro. Because, you show up as a co-star, recurring co-star, whatever, and they're just like, who the fuck is this idiot from Atlanta? Is it your first job? They don't know. They don't know how much work you put in, how much you care, who you are, whatever. And then the third scene where Kieran Culkin walks in. It's Kieran, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just like, because Jeremy Strong doesn't like to rehearse. They're just like, we're not going to rehearse.
Just gonna go for it.
Just fucking go for it.
At that point, too, you guys, everyone's already been.
Well, we're loose, and we already did.
Everyone's
So he
loose.
comes in, and the whole fucking scene, we're just looking at each other like where this is gonna go, and it's all improv, and we're fucking around with each other, and then the coolest thing about this is one of the only times this has ever happened. A couple times since then. Jeremy Strong and Kieran Culkin on the transpo van. Normally on a transpo van, you get in, they've been working whatever. This is actually the last episode in the States. So they have a rap party that night at Kieran Culkin's place that he invited us all to.
Cool.
Yeah.
Should have went.
What's that?
Did you go?
Oh, yeah, of
Hell
course.
yeah.
And I didn't even drink, but I had like one because I'm like, I'm having
Might
my
as
drink.
well.
Like, you know what I'm saying, dude? They're normally like, we've been filming for a long time. They had already filmed in New York, and they're like talking about like what they're going to do in France or whatever. They're talking about the scene. They're talking about the scenes from that day and that week. They're like, oh man, this. And I was just frustrated when this happened. I was like, this is the first time I've ever seen that.
That's interesting. I've never heard that before.
Because normally, you know what I'm saying? It's like, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're sitting there talking about the work. I'm like, God, that is like, I'd love to see that.
Yeah. It's just
You know what I
a
mean?
different, or not to say different, but it's just another level of care
100%.
that they put into it.
Tony, out of all the episodics that I've shot, I've never ever talked about the scenes or ever heard about series regulars or anybody that's actually like on the call sheet talk about the scenes.
Do you see what I mean? And so season 1 came out, and I knew a couple people who really loved it. Season 2 came out, started catching. Season 3 was when they first really started to pump it. I was in New York, and it was just everywhere. I was like, whoa. I was
There
like,
we
oh,
go.
that's how it works. They, because if a show's not popular, they're just released as a limited release. Some people they spend a lot of money, but they're not going to come out and really make a big deal of something and then it flops, because it's better just to have it be a slow burn.
Mhm.
People find it, and then they spend all their advertising money when they're like, here's a tipping point where we make it go this way, and now we can make it
Yeah.
awesome. Because they knew they had a hit on their hands.
Yeah. Wes, when I found that show, because I found it, it was that like, I don't know, it was like a random, like, oh, well, I guess I'll check it out. It was the end of season 3. Like that had, I guess that had just been released, and it's like the downtime between that and whenever they released 4. So it was like, I started at 1, and then by the time I got through 3, 4 came out, and it was just a ride.
Yeah, dude. And that show, it's so crazy because by the time people started asking me about it, I'm like, we filmed that like 3 years ago. You know what I'm saying, dude? I've done 30 projects since then. You know what I'm saying? But it's really nice, and it's one of the things I'm sort of most proud of. You know what I'm saying?
It's great.
What are you the most proud of that you've worked on?
If you don't say this podcast, I'm gonna. I'm just kidding.
In recent memory, I mean, it's kind of because this is all. I mean, we're producing.
No,
this.
no, get real stuff. Go get down to it.
But it is great that you're doing this. You know?
Yeah. Oh, geez, man. God, what is it? For me, it's a play that I did.
Okay.
It was a musical, actually. and it's the best story ever told on stage. It's my favorite thing I've ever done.
What made it your favorite thing?
I transcended.
Gotcha.
I disappeared for about 2.5 hours from this earth every night. I told the story to these guys. My dad had passed away a year before.
I'm so sorry, man.
But it was just one of those shows where you would go out, you step out on stage. It was an ensemble piece. Everyone played their instruments in the show, and I could see my dad sitting like on one of the, whenever there was an empty seat, I could see him sitting in different spots every night. It was so strange.
Like really see him or feel him?
I felt like I could feel him.
Okay,
see
good.
him. There was one night where it was so visceral, and it was weird, but
Mhm.
it was one of those that I didn't want to dig too deep into it because I didn't want to expose any of the magic that was there.
Totally.
But it was absolutely the best thing I ever done. I have a hard time listening to the music because I loved it so much, but it was definitely that's the thing I'm most proud of, and I'm so glad I got to do it because
Yeah.
it's a hard show to put on, and not a lot of theaters I think want to take a risk and do the show, but I'm glad I did it.
What's it called?
It's called Once.
Oh,
And I did it
dope.
twice. I
That's
played the drummer, and then I got to play the lead.
Once that was a movie. They made a movie about
They
it.
did,
right?
yeah. It was based off the indie film, and then they created the stage version on
The
Broadway.
indie film was set in what, Ireland?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, dope, with the guitar and the bus and the
100%.
thing.
Yep, the
Yeah,
busker.
that's so dope.
He's a busker.
Well, that's the thing is like you start to realize that you're like, my dream. The only reason Outer Banks wasn't my dream so far is because I like doing scenes with dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
But besides that, you're like, this is the dream.
Mm-hmm.
Being on set with cool people and doing a scene, you're like, oh God, I get to do a scene with Andrew today. This is gonna be so dope.
Yeah.
That's the dream. The moment of acting, the pure, like you said, the transcendence, that's why we do this. It's not for the money, it's not for the fame. It's
So
for the
fun.
moment of timelessness. They actually say that's what the definition of everlasting life is, not actually what we think of everlasting life, even though I don't think that there's any such thing as death and time doesn't exist and none of this is real. The moment where time disappears, that's the fountain of youth.
Mm,
Do you know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
Spending time with people that you care about, you're like, I hope this moment never ends. That joy, that's what we're all looking for. And if you can do something like, I used to play, I'm a musician too, and we both know a little bit about it, but in capoeira, we have a beat and bow, a stringed instrument, right, from Brazil, Afro-Brazilian, and then drums and then pandeiro, and then we sing songs that are very like call and response. And there would be, you'll hit the groove and some Friday nights, we would just play for like 4 hours and you're like, there's no greater feeling than being in the groove, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think so? You're
Yeah.
like, oh, I could do this.
When I'm drumming I drum with a lot of really excellent musicians, but there are again moments where like it's just pure bliss and like there's a conversation happening and like somebody, everyone's in the zone, somebody plays some call that like cues me and I'll play an answer to that call, and then the next guy will kick off some rhythm that was like had a piece of the message that I was playing and then evolves it and then I answer back. You know what I mean? It's this whole
And it's
ebb
like,
and flow.
yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, you want to hold on to it tighter, but if you do, you ruin it.
Yeah.
So you literally just have to like lie back and just like, oh, I can't control this.
You're
and
riding the
and you know
wave.
it won't last forever.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful thing about it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is temporary.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to enjoy it is just experience it. And you can't, if you try to like control it, you ruin it. And God, what a beautiful feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's like when you're acting in a great scene too. It's just enough of you, but not too much of you.
Mm.
Do you know what I'm saying, dude?
Yeah.
In fact, I love a scene where I'm like, I don't exactly know what's supposed to happen. So we just let it flow. So I'm just like, I have no agenda.
It's genuine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's organic.
Yeah.
It's organic. Do you know what I'm saying?
Man, that's beautiful.
It's gorgeous. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it does. Tell you,
It's
kind of
like life.
just-
I think
yeah.
if we can get to the flow, one of the things I liked about doing the Green Goblin is I would go out and I'd be like, oh, set's over. Because I would just be in flow state, Joe, go from here to here to here to here, and just be vibing. And sometimes I would get a line in my head like, don't touch me there. And I would say it 17 times in a row. And I would just like, I was just fucking vibing for like 25 minutes. And to me, I would leave the end of the day, I would come off set like, so much energy. You know what I'm saying? Because when you're doing something that when you're in the flow state, you actually get energy from it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a good
These
marker
things
to
that
tell.
fulfill us, we get energy from. They don't drain us. They fill us up. You know?
Yeah. Speaking of filled up, I'm fucking empty, dude. Tony, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Oh man, it was a pleasure. I could do this all night.
I know you could, brother.
Dude, how old are you, man? I'm like twice your age.
I know you are. I just had one hell of a day.
Did you? You were out in the sun today?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
You guys,
yeah.
you
Can you
guys
tell?
drum together at
Flushed.
Universal?
We do, yeah.
Dope. How's everything going over there?
It's going great.
That's
It's
awesome,
going great. We'll
dude.
tell you some off.
That's great. That's
mic.
great.
No, it is.
Well, you know, I
it
haven't
is
been-
It
great.
is going great.
Of
No, it
course,
is going
yeah.
great, but there's
I haven't been there in so long. It's so funny because people who were 10 years younger than me, who used to be performers, are like now show directors. You're like, like that's what that's
the
how it
course.
happens.
That's the course
And you go
that
back there
happens.
and you're like, there's a bunch of young. I don't know the performers at all anymore, but all the people I know. Like I was in class with a girl the other night, a woman the other night. I'm like, that's what happens.
That's what happens.
It's kind of wild.
It is
right?
weird. It is weird because I see the friends that I started with now becoming directors, and you're like, oh, this is. And then I don't try to forecast my future too much at all. But then I'm like, what happens to me? You know, and where do I fit in this? And it's a whole
Sometimes
thing.
it's nice to not know, though.
I
think that
like.
What's cool
gambling a
about
little
film
bit.
and television is you're like, the sky is literally the limit.
100%.
You could literally be the next. Who's the Mexican superhero?
Michael Pena. Nope,
I'm just saying, like,
that's not true.
I'm just saying, like, I know, dude. I know you-
yeah, I know. Who
I'm-
could it be? Anybody?
I'm literally saying, like, the Marvel universe is so huge, and they
Yeah.
could literally be like, we're gonna make this character next, and then all of a sudden, shoot, the girl who plays Miss Marvel, the young one.
Yeah.
They were like, yeah, you.
It's yeah.
You never know what's gonna happen, and the sky's the limit. And I feel like I'm trying to focus on being grateful.
Mm-hmm.
We have dope lives. We get to do dope things. And I think that's part of the secret sauce is like learning how to be great. I've really been trying to be like, you know what? One of the cool things about coming to Florida is being like, oh, I'm not missing anything. I came here. It rained every single day of this month. Every single day.
I'm sick of it, Tony. I hate
And
it.
so I would get sick of it in Atlanta too. And I'm just like, I'm getting out of here. I'm this and that. And I came down here and it rained every single day. And it was like God was telling me, hey, dude, it can suck down there too. You have to make the best of what you're given.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
There's kind of like no escape. You can't focus on the external. You just got to be like, cool, it's raining today. So what can we do to have a great day? And there's going to be bad days everywhere and good days everywhere. And I realized yesterday, because I got to do this audition for Ford, I'm like, oh, when I audition, I don't care. It feels like a good day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, dude?
Yeah. That's where I've hit that point too with auditions where I don't care anymore. It's just grateful. I have like 3 things I have to put on tape tomorrow, and
That's a blessing, dude.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite day tomorrow.
It's a
You know?
blessing, dude.
As Max Holloway would say, though, it is what it is. You know, whether it's raining in Florida or Atlanta, make your situation what you want it to be.
Dude, and that's the thing. And it was kind of like awesome to come down here and be like, oh, it's not coming down here is not the solution. Even though I've had a really nice time and got to revisit and I would like to retire here someday, and get married and, you know what I'm saying, have a partner and stuff. But it's not, the solution isn't to escape. It's actually kind of nice though. You know what I'm saying? Just like you, I'm sure you're like, man, if you go to Atlanta, there's going to be a different set of challenges. Or New York or LA. You know what I'm saying, dude?
That thought plagued me for so long, but now.
Well, the cool thing
It's
is
not that
the
anymore.
longer time went on, the less you had to. You
Yeah.
have to be any specific place anymore.
I waited it out, dude.
You did. Coleman
Fucking
Domingo was
waited
literally like, he was literally talking. He went through a phase in his 40s where he's just like, I'm taking my power back. And even back then, it was about 10 years ago. And he's just like, I'm not coming in the room. I'm just sending in a self-tape. And now it's just like,
That's what we all do.
Dude, we can literally. I literally was in Morocco, being like, I could stay in Morocco and just send self tapes from here.
No one
Seriously,
says
dude,
that,
no
dude.
one would know.
No
Who
one's
would
staying
know?
in
They wouldn't even know.
That's true, actually.
just be like, oh,
they
yeah.
would know because they would hear a camel in the background. Be like, "Is it your neighbor? What's going on over there?"
Yeah.
Tony, any last words before we call it?
You know what? I just want to say that I want to give you guys a little inspiration and tell you that the universe puts a dream in your heart, and sometimes we like doubt it. But if you find stillness and quiet inside of yourself, I think you can find the continual inspiration to not give up on the thing that you're put here to do. That's what I'll say. Because trust me, I got to remind myself sometimes I've wanted to fucking quit so many times, but God's just like, what else are you going to do, bro?
I wrote down this question
You know what I'm
that I
saying,
didn't even
dude?
get to.
What else are you going to do?
I wrote down this question I wasn't even going to get to. I was going to ask Tony. I was like, "How do you keep staying in this thing?" And he just,
You know how is you just, what are you going to do? Quit and then go be like the funniest guy at whatever hotel that you know what I'm saying, dude?
Yeah, I would.
You can't.
I would be the funniest guy at whatever hotel I worked at,
And
Mike.
dude, and guess what? I get to go work for Hennessy and I get to use my personality and like I
Yeah.
connect with people all day long and it's amazing. We build these amazing skills, but like
Yeah.
God's just like, don't give up yet.
Don't give up. Yeah. Stay in it, man. Because what else are
Yeah.
you going to do? All right. Let's get out of here.
Thank you for being here, man.
Yeah,
Thank
man,
you,
it's my
Tony.
pleasure.
This was
dude.
awesome.
Love
Do,
you.
do you guys have a sign off or whatever?
I usually just throw it to Leon and sign off, and he just cuts it off. But he has no mic. He just says some stupid
Now's
shit.
a good time for a little improv. Go ahead. Yeah, sign us off.
Sign us off.
Bye.
Let's hear a little. Let's
Beautiful.
hear.
There it
Let's
is.
hear one line of inspiration for the people from Andrew Romano. What do you think is the most important lesson that you've learned so far in
Thanks,
life?
Tony, for putting me on the spot. What's the most important life I've? What is it? What was the question?
What do you think is the thing you've learned that brings you the most joy?
What I've learned that brings me the most joy. It's not about what happens to you. It's about how many times you get knocked down and get back up.
Wow.
Rocco.
Rocco! Play me out. I'm done with this.